Most people sipping coffee right now have no idea this plant even exists. It survived global crop collapse. And yet, you won't find it in your Starbucks, your grocery store, or even most specialty cafes. This is Coffea Liberica. It's bold, it's beautiful, it's weird, and for plant lovers, it's the tree you never knew you needed. Today we're going deep on the plant, the bean, the flavor, and why this forgotten species might just be the future of coffee and climate resilience. So whether you're a grower, a roaster, or just love learning something rare, this one's for you. Let's break this down, because the history of Coffea liberica isn't just rare, it's real. This species is native to the lush, equatorial rainforests of Liberia, Uganda, and Angola. Big leaves, big cherries, big energy. But it wasn't until the late 1800s that the world outside Africa really paid attention. Why? Because coffee crops in Sri Lanka, Java, and across the tropics were being wiped out by a devastating fungal disease called coffee leaf rust. It nearly collapsed the global Arabica supply in a panic. European colonists, mainly the Dutch and British, started hunting for a solution, and they landed on Liberica. It was tougher. It could survive lower altitudes, and it thrived in the kind of heat and humidity where Arabica couldn't survive. That's how it ended up planted across Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines, where it didn't just grow, it rooted itself in the culture in the Philippines. It became known as Kapeng Barako, which literally translates to wild boar coffee, that a symbol of strength, resistance, and pride in Filipino identity. But here's the twist. After World War I, global coffee production started shifting toward Robusta, which was easier to harvest and process. Liberica got sidelined, not because it lacked flavor, but because it didn't fit the new industrial model of global coffee. And that's the kind of overlooked truth we care about. Because here at Roots and Roasts, we don't just grow pretty plants or sip great coffee. We bring the full story with us. Roots first. Here's where Coffea liberica really stands apart, not just from your average coffee tree, but from most tropicals in your collection. First, the leaves, they're massive, thick, and waxy, more like a mango tree or avocado than any houseplant. Glossy on top, pale green underneath, with that signature coffee ripple along the edges. They can grow up to 12 inches long, making them one of the most identifiable features of the species. Liberica produces the largest coffee cherry of any species, but it's more oval than round, and when ripe, it smells slightly floral and fruity, like jasmine meets mango nectar. Inside, the seeds or actual coffee beans are asymmetrical, not flat and oval like Arabica. One side is longer, giving Liberica its unmistakable curve. But how does it grow? Let's walk through. Year 0 to 1. Start with fresh seed, ideally soaked overnight, then sown in warm, humid conditions. Germination takes 6 to 8 weeks, even under ideal conditions. This is a slow grower. This stage, it pushes up 2 simple seed leaves, then develops its first true leaves, long, spear-shaped, deep green. Year 1 to 2. It starts building structure. A central leader stem rises, with opposite leaf pairs stretching every few inches that you'll notice the size of each leaf increasing. And this is where pruning can help control vertical growth if you're keeping it in a container. Year 3 to 4. With enough light, warmth, and root space, Coffea liberica matures into a small tree. This stage, it's already visually striking with that upright form, glossy leaves, and sculptural trunk. Year 5 plus. This is when it begins to flower and fruit. Tiny, fragrant white star-shaped blossoms emerge along the leaf nodes, usually after a rainy season or humidity spike. These are followed by clusters of green cherries, which slowly ripen to deep red or purple over the course of 6 to 9 months from flower to harvest. It takes almost a full year per fruit cycle. And that's why growing Liberica is a long game, that it's not for instant gratification. But for those who want something rare, resilient, and rooted in story, this plant delivers. Let's talk about how Coffea liberica actually grows, and if you can grow it where you live. because while this species is incredibly resilient, it still needs the right conditions. And whether you're in North America, China, the UK, or Brazil, the setup matters. Indoors, for growers in temperate or cold regions, yes, you can grow Liberica indoors, but it's not a windowsill plant. This is a tropical tree, and your setup should reflect that. Light. Give it 8 to 10 hours of bright, indirect light per day. South or west-facing windows with sheer curtains work, but the gold standard is a full-spectrum grow light. Humidity. Coffea Liberica thrives in 60 to 90% humidity. Group it with other plants. Use a humidifier, set up a pebble tray, or mist regularly. For serious growers, a mini greenhouse cabinet with airflow plus warmth does wonders. Temperature. Keep temps between 70, 85 degree F, below 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Growth stalls. Below 45 degrees Fahrenheit. You risk permanent damage. Container tip. Start with a 3 to 5 gallon pot. Well-draining tropical soil, MIX. As it matures, be prepared to up-pot into a 10 to 15 gallon container or keep it pruned to maintain indoor height around 5 to 7 feet. Indoor growers. This is a statement tree. IT will need space, care, and a little patience, but it will reward you with size, fragrance, and the bragging rights of growing real coffee in your own home. Outdoors. For Coffea Liberica growers in the tropics or subtropics, if you're in Florida, Southern California, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, parts of South America, or southern China, like Guangdong, Guangxi, or Yunnan, you're in luck. Liberica loves rainforest-style humidity, filtered canopy light or partial shade, consistent rainfall, or irrigation. Plant it in-ground if your winters never drop below 50 degree F. Otherwise, grow it in large containers that can be wheeled indoors during cold snaps. Sunlight. Outdoors. Liberica thrives best in dappled or morning sun with afternoon shade. Full sun is okay if humidity and soil moisture are consistent. But too much heat without humidity, you'll see leaf curl or burn. All right, so you got a Coffea Liberica in your care. Now let's make sure it thrives, not dies. That we're giving you the full rundown. Water, light soil, feeding, pruning, no fluff. Watering. First rule, Liberica hates extremes that don't drown it, but don't let it dry out completely either. Here's how to get it right. Check soil moisture with your finger or a meter. Water when the top 1 to 2 inches of soil are dry. Water slowly until it drains out the bottom. Then wait. No sitting in saucers of runoff. In high heat or active growth, spring, summer, you might water 1-2x per week, depending on humidity. In winter, cut watering in half. The plant slows down, and too much moisture equals root rot. Soil and drainage. Liberica wants a moist, well-draining, slightly acidic mix. Here's your recipe. 40% cocoa coir or peat moss, moisture retention. 30% perlite or pumice, drainage and aeration. 30% worm castings or compost, nutrition and texture. Optional. Add orchid bark for extra chunk and airflow if growing in humid zones. pH should sit around 6.0 to 6.5, slightly acidic. Just like the rainforest floor, temperature and humidity, ideal temp. 70, 85 degree F. Below 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Slow down. Below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Stress zone. Humidity should stay above 60%. If your leaves are curling, browning at the tips, or looking dull, it's usually dry air. Coffea Liberica is slow growing, but it still needs nutrients, especially in spring and summer. Use a balanced organic liquid fertilizer every 2 to 3 weeks for potted plants. Always water before you fertilize to avoid root burn. In fall, winter. Reduce to once per month or pause entirely if growth stops. Micronutrients like magnesium, iron, and calcium also mattered. A monthly foliar spray or compost tea helps keep foliage lush. Pruning and shape control. Indoors, this tree can get big. Manage height and promote bushier growth. Pinch new top growth to encourage side branches. Remove lower leaves or leggy stems in spring. Never prune more than 20% of the plant at once. IT responds best to pruning after the active growing season begins, late spring to early summer. If Arabica is the wine of coffee and Robusta is the whiskey Liberica, is the wild, exotic cocktail you didn't know you could order. This is a bold, unapologetic bean with flavor notes most people have never experienced, but that doesn't mean it's out of reach. Let's walk you through it from light to dark and paint the taste picture. Light roast. This is where Liberica gets wild. You'll pick up notes of jackfruit, banana peel, maybe even a little durian funk if it's naturally processed. The acidity is high, like a splash of tropical juice on the tongue, sharp, bright, and unpredictable. It's not everyone's cup, but if you like things funky and fruity, this is the real deal. Medium roast. This is the sweet spot. The fruit quiets down a bit, and you start to taste the depth, cacao nibs. Maple syrup. Tamarind, that's got the complexity of a dark wine, rich, layered, slightly herbal, but with a smoothness that lingers. If you're trying Liberica for the first time, this is the roast I'd recommend. Dark roast. Everything soft burns away, and what's left is bold and grounding that you'll taste chicory, toasted cedar, maybe even smoked clove if you're using a French press. There's no bitterness, just a deep, roasted backbone that pairs beautifully with oat milk or straight black. And here's what really sets Liberica apart. It is less caffeine than Arabica or Robusta. About 1.2%, which means you can sip it slow, afternoon or evening, and still sleep at night. All right, let's settle it. Arabica, Robusta, Liberica. 0.3 beans, 0.3 stories, 0.3 completely different flavor experiences. Arabica is your smooth talker, delicate, sweet, floral. That it's the one most people drink, and for good reason. But it's also picky. It hates heat. It's fragile and gets sick easy. Robusta grows fast, high in caffeine, but taste-wise, it's giving burnt rubber and pencil shavings. Sorry, not sorry. Mostly used in cheap blends or instant coffee. Then there's Liberica, the wild card, giant leaves. Giant fruit, giant energy, tropical, smoky, full-bodied. That it's the one with personality. And it has the lowest caffeine, so you can sip it late and still wake up early. And if you've never tasted Liberica, that's not your fault. Most of the world hasn't. Here's the real reason Coffea Liberica matters, not just as a plant, not just as a bean, but as a potential solution to one of the biggest challenges facing global agriculture: climate change. Right now, over 60% of the world's coffee comes from just one species, Coffea Arabica. But Arabica is vulnerable. It needs cooler, stable temperatures, predictable rainfall, and elevation to thrive. And as climate zones shift, its growing regions are shrinking. According to a 2022 study by Climate Analytics and Kew Gardens, climate suitability for Arabica could decline by up to 50% by 2050, especially in Central America, Ethiopia, and parts of Southeast Asia. Meanwhile, Liberica, which was once dismissed for being too big, too hard to process, or too funky, is now being reconsidered by researchers, growers, and specialty roasters worldwide. If you're looking to grow something rare, resilient, and rooted in meaning, grow Liberica. It's a living piece of cultural heritage, a climate-forward species, and a reminder that what's overlooked often holds the most value. Whether you're a coffee lover, a grower, or just someone curious about the stories plant can carry, Liberica has something to teach you. So here's what you could do next. Download the Rare Coffee Plant Care Guide. It's free and packed with soil blends, light tips, and what to expect as your plant matures. Explore our Roots and Roasts tool hub. We linked all the essentials to get you started, from moisture meters to grow lights. And if you want ongoing support, rare plant recs, or even curated coffee drops, sign up early for the Roots and Roast Concierge. And of course, if this video brought value, subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and follow us for more deep dives on rare plants, legacy coffee, and botanical truths that matter. This is Roots and Roasts, and we don't just grow plants, that we grow perspective.